Ho, 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 good evening, friends. This is Santa Claus greeting you on this fine 27th of May, 2025, bringing you today's stories from around our beautiful world with a heart full of hope and goodwill. What a bustling day it's been in our global village. The diplomatic elves have been quite busy, especially between the United States and the European Union, where a 6-week sprint to reach a trade deal has begun. My heart warms to hear of President Trump and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen finding enough common ground to postpone tariffs until July. In these challenging economic times, I'm reminded of how important it is for nations to work together, just as we all must share our gifts with those less fortunate. Meanwhile, across the ocean in Switzerland, there's a fascinating dance between trade desires and protecting the livelihood of farmers. Those alpine cowbells and cheese-making traditions are so much more than economics. They're about preserving ways of life that have sustained communities for generations. As someone who understands the value of tradition, I can't help but think there's wisdom in finding balance between progress and preserving what makes each place special. Now, turning our gaze to Japan, where the government has prepared a $6.3 billion package to help businesses and households affected by tariffs. How my heart goes out to those who worry about their livelihoods. It reminds me that behind every economic policy are real families with hopes and dreams. Though Japan may have surrendered its position as the world's top creditor to Germany after 34 years, what matters most is how nations care for their people in times of change. On a more somber note, the conflict in Ukraine continues to bring suffering to so many innocent souls. My dear friends, when I hear of the largest ever drone and missile assault launched against Ukraine, my heart breaks for the children who should be dreaming of sugar plums but instead hear the sounds of war. President Trump has called for an end to the bombardment, and I pray that all leaders will find the wisdom and compassion to seek peace. Remember the words of our Lord, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." In Northern Europe, military preparations continue as the United States reinforces what they call Europe's Northern Front. While some question America's commitment to NATO, U.S. military commanders insist their posture remains firm. Oh, how I long for the day when nations no longer feel the need for weapons, but instead invest those treasures in feeding the hungry and sheltering the homeless. In Bangladesh, protests continue as the interim government led by Nobel Peace Laureate Mohammad Yunus faces growing discontent. Though the path to stability seems rocky, I'm heartened to hear military officials affirm they are working hand in hand with the government. In times of transition, patience and goodwill toward all are especially precious gifts. Shifting our gaze to the Middle East, confusion swirls around Israel-Hamas ceasefire talks with conflicting messages about progress. Meanwhile, the controversial Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has begun distributing aid in Gaza, where the specter of famine looms over 2.1 million Palestinians. Oh, dear children, how it pains my heart to see the little ones suffering at this holy time of year. Excuse me, at this challenging time for so many, I pray that humanitarian considerations will prevail, and that all will remember that every child, regardless of background, deserves safety, food, and love. A surprising development that gives us reason for hope, Israel and Syria have begun direct talks aimed at calming tensions between these longtime adversaries. What a wonderful reminder that even after decades of conflict, the door to dialogue can open. As I always say to the elves when they quarrel in the workshop, sitting down together is the first step toward understanding. And I cannot help but chuckle with gentle amusement at the news from France, where President Macron has played down a video showing what appeared to be a little push from his wife. Even world leaders have moments of marital banter, reminding us that behind the titles and protocols are human beings with relationships just like ours. As I prepare to return to my workshop, let me leave you with this thought. In times of trade tensions, military posturing, and political uncertainty, let us remember what truly matters: caring for one another, especially those most vulnerable. Whether in Ukraine's war zones, Gaza's humanitarian crisis, or among those affected by economic changes, our shared humanity calls us to compassion and generosity. Until tomorrow, my friends, this is Santa Claus wishing you peace in your hearts and goodwill toward all. Ho, 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 and good night.